Imagine spending years building the most sophisticated digital vault in the world, a vault designed to hold the future of technology, only to accidentally leave the master blueprints sitting on a park bench. And then, just as you realize your mistake, you accidentally drop the keys to the front door right next to it.
It sounds like the plot of a badly written corporate espionage thriller, but that is exactly the reality one of the world's leading artificial intelligence labs woke up to late this March. We are talking about Anthropic, and the sheer scale of the chaos they are navigating right now is genuinely hard to overstate. It is a perfect storm of two completely separate, catastrophic leaks happening back to back.
Exactly. The media has been absolutely buzzing, and social networks are flooded with rumors, so we need to do a proper reality check today. We need to untangle the timeline because people are conflating two different events. There was the leak of highly sensitive internal documents about an unreleased, hyper-capable AI model, and then, just days later, the accidental public release of the actual source code for their flagship autonomous coding agent.
And the irony hanging over all of this is that neither of these breaches was the result of some sophisticated nation-state cyber attack. There were no hooded hackers breaking through firewalls. Both of these massive exposures came down to simple, mundane human error. It is a stark reminder that no matter how advanced our artificial intelligence gets, the human element remains the ultimate vulnerability.
Let us start with the first domino to fall, the document leak. In late March, a reporter from Fortune stumbled upon a misconfiguration in Anthropic's content management system. This wasn't just a tiny slip. Over 3,000 internal documents, draft blog posts, performance metrics, and PDFs were suddenly sitting out in the open on the public internet.
Right. And while Anthropic scrambled and managed to pull the files offline relatively quickly, on the internet, a few minutes is all it takes. Archivers and eagle-eyed users immediately scraped the data. The crown jewel of this leaked trove was a draft announcement for a completely new AI model internally codenamed Capybara, which they plan to release under the name Claude Mythos.
And based on the leaked internal assessments, Mythos isn't just an incremental update, it is an entirely new capability tier positioned above their current flagship Opus models. The documents describe it as by far the most powerful AI model they have ever developed, with dramatically higher scores in software coding and academic reasoning. But the metric that really set the industry on fire was cybersecurity.
That is where the panic truly set in. Anthropic's own internal drafts contained a stark warning. They explicitly stated that Mythos is currently far ahead of any other AI model in cyber capabilities. They warned it could spark a wave of models capable of discovering and exploiting software vulnerabilities in ways that completely outpace the efforts of human defenders.
Which brings us to a fascinating philosophical and economic pivot point. We have spent decades building enterprise security software based on the assumption that hackers are human. Humans need time to sleep, time to write code, time to test exploits. But an autonomous AI agent like Mythos could theoretically hunt for zero-day vulnerabilities at machine speed, 24 hours a day.
Precisely. And the financial markets instantly understood the gravity of that paradigm shift. In a single trading session following the news of the Mythos leak, we saw an absolute bloodbath in the cybersecurity sector. Major players like CrowdStrike, Palo Alto Networks, and Zscaler tumbled, wiping out roughly $14.5 billion in market value. Investors were terrified that highly autonomous offensive AI might simply render traditional enterprise security software obsolete.
It is the ultimate arms race. If you have an AI sword that can cut through any traditional shield, the only defense is a better AI shield. And according to the leaked documents, Anthropic is acutely aware of this danger. Their strategy for Mythos is a slow, gradual release to a small, trusted group of cyber defenders first. They are trying to distribute the shield before they unleash the sword to the broader public.
Which is an incredibly delicate balancing act, But of course, whenever a leak this perfectly timed happens, the conspiracy theories start flying. Given the massive hype it generated, a lot of people in the tech community started speculating that this wasn't an accident at all. They theorized it was a deliberate marketing stunt designed to build anticipation right before a planned demonstration by the CEO.
I have to push back hard on that theory. If you want to orchestrate a PR leak, you strategically drop one heavily redacted, very flattering memo. You absolutely do not accidentally expose 3,000 random internal files, including sensitive corporate PDFs and raw metrics, just to get a headline. The collateral damage is simply too high.
I completely agree. The sheer volume of the exposure points to a genuine infrastructure mistake. And despite the massive data dump, the leak was still primarily qualitative. We got the narrative, but we still lack the hard quantitative data. We do not know the specific benchmark numbers. We do not have a concrete release timeline. We do not know the pricing or the context window sizes. And crucially, we do not know exactly how Mythos stacks up against OpenAI's upcoming new model, which is currently operating under the codename Spud.
The mystery around Spud versus Mythos is going to be the defining rivalry of the next year. But Anthropic barely had time to assess the damage from the document leak before the second disaster struck. And this one was far more tangible. Just days after the Mythos documents surfaced, Anthropic suffered an actual code leak regarding their flagship terminal-based AI coding agent, Claude Code.
This is where the story shifts from a theoretical future threat to an immediate, present-day crisis. To be clear, the actual weights and training data of the Claude AI models were not leaked. What leaked was the client-side harness, the highly sophisticated software that allows Claude to operate autonomously on a developer's machine.
And the mechanism of this leak is almost tragically comical. On March 31st, due to a release packaging error, Anthropic accidentally pushed an update to their public software registry. It was version the 1st of February 2088. But attached to this update was a nearly 60 megabyte debugging source map file. For those who might not be deep into software engineering, can you explain why a source map file is such a devastating thing to accidentally share?
Think of it this way. When companies release software, they usually compile and obfuscate the code. They scramble it so that the computer can read it perfectly, but if a human tries to look at it, it just looks like a massive wall of gibberish. It protects their trade secrets. But a source map is essentially the decoder ring. It is a file used by developers to translate that gibberish back into clean, readable code for bug-fixing purposes. By accidentally including this file, Anthropic essentially reverse-engineered their own product for the entire world.
They handed over the recipe, the grocery list, and the chef's personal notes. Over 500,000 lines of pristine, unobfuscated TypeScript code spread across nearly 2,000 files were suddenly public. And while Anthropic retains the copyright and the code is not legally open source, the internet never forgets.
The cat was out of the bag instantly. Within hours, the code was mirrored on GitHub and forked tens of thousands of times. Anthropic has been aggressively issuing takedown notices, but developers have already archived snapshots. They are tearing into Anthropic's proprietary architecture, analyzing exactly how one of the smartest AI labs in the world builds agentic software.
And this is where the fallout gets incredibly dangerous, incredibly fast. Because the full blueprint of an autonomous coding agent is now public, threat actors are aggressively exploiting it. The most immediate threat we are seeing is a wave of sophisticated supply chain attacks.
It is a classic trap. Hackers immediately created fake, official-looking repositories of the leaked code. Curious developers, eager to see how Claude Code works under the hood, download and run these modified versions. But hidden inside that code are Trojans, cryptominers, and data exfiltration malware like Vidar and GhostSocks. By trying to peek at Anthropic's secrets, these developers are handing the keys to their own machines directly to cybercriminals.
It is a devastatingly effective trap because it preys on the natural curiosity of the engineering community. But the threat goes deeper than just fake repositories. Hackers are also using the leaked code to hunt for vulnerabilities within the legitimate tool itself.
Exactly. Because attackers now have the exact blueprint of how Claude Code operates on a user's machine, they can scan the codebase for pre-existing security flaws. They are looking for paths to execute remote code or ways to silently siphon off API keys. Once they find these flaws, they can weaponize them against developers who are legitimately using the official, unmodified tool.
It completely flips the security dynamic. But beyond the immediate cybersecurity threats, there is a massive intellectual property disaster unfolding here. Rival AI companies and independent developers just received a production-grade reference manual for free. They get to see exactly how Anthropic solves incredibly complex engineering problems.
One of the most fascinating revelations from the code analysis is how Anthropic handles context entropy. When an AI agent is working on a long, complex coding task, it tends to get confused over time, losing track of its original goal. The leaked code revealed a proprietary system Anthropic built called self-healing memory, which constantly prunes and reorganizes the AI's context to keep it focused. Competitors have been struggling with this exact problem for years, and Anthropic just handed them the solution on a silver platter.
And then there are the hidden features that raise some serious ethical questions. The code revealed something called Undercover mode, which apparently allows the AI to contribute code to public repositories without revealing its identity as a machine.
That feature alone opens up a massive philosophical debate. If an AI is submitting code, fixing bugs, and interacting with human developers under a disguised identity, what does that mean for trust in the open-source community? If something goes wrong with that code, who is accountable? The fact that Anthropic was secretly building this capability is going to force a major industry conversation about AI transparency and disclosure.
It feels like we are standing at the edge of a very steep cliff. In the span of a single week, Anthropic dealt with a massive loss of intellectual property that simultaneously gave attackers a roadmap to their software and handed competitors their most closely guarded trade secrets. And it all stemmed from a misconfigured content system and a poorly packaged software update.
It highlights a profound paradox of the current tech era. We are building systems of unimaginable complexity, artificial intellects that can reason, code, and potentially hack better than we can. Yet, the foundations holding these systems together are still managed by humans who occasionally click the wrong button, forget to change a permission setting, or accidentally upload a debugging file.
The weak link isn't the artificial intelligence, the weak link is us. As we look ahead to the release of models like Mythos, which possess these staggering offensive capabilities, the stakes of human error become existential. If an AI can autonomously exploit zero-day vulnerabilities, a simple configuration mistake doesn't just result in a data leak, it could result in systemic infrastructure collapse.
We are entering an era where software writes itself, hacks itself, and defends itself. The Anthropic leaks are essentially a preview of the new world order. The arms race is no longer just between human hackers and human defenders. It is an algorithmic war, and right now, we are just scrambling to make sure we don't accidentally hand the weapons to the wrong side before the battle even begins.
It leaves you with a lingering, deeply unsettling question. As these autonomous systems become more capable, more opaque, and more deeply embedded into our global infrastructure, who is really in control? Are we still the architects of this technology, or have we already become the liability?